What's going on, everybody? Alex Hurt here, and today I'm going to give you my 12-12 intermittent fasting guide. Now, this is a great fasting technique for beginners, so if you're totally new to fasting, you've never fasted before, you're in the right place, okay? So in this video, we're going to talk about why you would want to do 12-12 intermittent fasting in the first place. We'll go into what 12-12 intermittent fasting is. We'll talk about how you actually do 12-12 intermittent fasting, and then also why you should be doing it, some of the benefits to doing intermittent fasting and 12-12 intermittent fasting in particular, okay? So let's get right into it. But before we do, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications for my channel. I talk about fasting, general health, exercise, and nutrition. So if you're into that type of content, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you can get notified every time I put out a new video, okay? All right, let's get right into it. So first, let's talk about why you would want to do 12-12 intermittent fasting. So why do you want to do it? Well, first off, intermittent fasting is really good for weight loss. So if you want to lose some weight, fasting is a good way to do it, and 12-12 intermittent fasting is a good way to get started. It's really good for beginners if you've never fasted before. Fasting also promotes longevity. There's been a lot of research that's pointed to fasting increasing your lifespan. Most of that research is done on mice, but it's been extended to humans in some cases. So fasting also increases your focus. So when you're not eating, most of the time you're burning ketones, and ketones actually enhance your cognitive function. And if you're not thinking about eating, you're not thinking about the next time you're going to go eat lunch, or what you're going to have for breakfast or dinner or something like that. You're just more focused on the task at hand. So that's one of the benefits of doing 12-12 intermittent fasting. You'll also have a little bit more time for family and friends, just some quality social time. If you don't have to eat, and say your family is also participating in intermittent fasting, then you can spend that time actually, going on a hike, or just spending some quality time one-on-one, maybe talking or playing a board game or something like that. And actually, I want to give you a quote from Ben Franklin. He once said that the best of medicines is resting and fasting. So this is one of our founding fathers, one of the greatest minds in American history. He fasted, and he would do it for increased focus and actually to promote his general health and longevity. So, just a little tidbit there to kind of encourage you to go ahead on your fasting journey, and with 12-12 intermittent fasting, it's a great way to start. So now let's talk about what 12-12 intermittent fasting actually is. And it's really simple, it's really basic. Basically what you do is you eat for 12 hours and then you don't for 12 hours. Like I said, it's great for beginners, and a lot of you might actually be doing 12-12 intermittent fasting without even knowing it. Say you eat dinner around 7 p.m. And you've heard that snacking at night isn't the best idea, so you don't eat anything after dinner, and then you wake up the next morning and you have breakfast at 7 a.m. Well, you've just fasted for 12 hours, and so without even knowing it, you're participating in 12-12 intermittent fasting. Now, if you have any calories in that 12-hour period, it's not a fast at that point, but a lot of people are doing this really without even thinking about it. So it's a really good way to sort of step into intermittent fasting. And also, if you're into other types of fasting, not just 12-12 intermittent fasting, make sure you check out my complete intermittent fasting guide. I'm going to link it somewhere, maybe down in the description or here or in this corner, I'm not sure yet, but make sure you check out that guide, because I go through all of the different types of fasting, more of a long form kind of format, so make sure you check that out. Okay, so next, let's talk about how you actually do 12-12 intermittent fasting, and it's really simple. Like I said, a lot of people are already doing a 12-12 fasting routine without even knowing it, but the best way to do it is to finish dinner about 12 hours before you'd eat breakfast. So most of us have a pretty set morning routine. Like for me, I get up at 6, and of course I fast for a long time, but when I wasn't fasting, I would normally wake up around 6 and eat breakfast normally by 7, 6:30 or 7. So if I wanted to do a 12-12 intermittent fasting routine, all I would do is have dinner 12 hours beforehand. So by 6:30, 7 o'clock, I'm done eating. I've had dinner, I've had whatever supplements I want for the night, and I'm done eating for the rest of the day. And that way you can kind of start your fast towards the latter part of the evening, you know, into bed, and then all while you're sleeping, you're fasting and you're burning fat, you're starting to burn ketones, which come from fat, and you're promoting that longevity, getting that increased focus going, increasing your cognitive function, all while you're sleeping. So that's really cool. And the key here is to make sure that you have absolutely 0 calories after you start your fast. So if you're, you know, a late night snacker, or, you know, it could be around 10 p.m. when you're about to go to bed and you think you might want something to eat or something to drink, if you're going to do 12-12 fasting, make sure you don't eat anything. Don't eat anything, only drink water, and you're going to be good to go for your 12-12 intermittent fasting routine, okay? So lastly, let's talk about why you should do 12-12 intermittent fasting. We've talked a little bit about some of the benefits of doing fasting already, but let's kind of dive a little bit deeper into it. So intermittent fasting, fasting in general, actually improves your brain health and cognitive function. There's actually some research that points to either slowing or even reversing some neurodegenerative diseases, and that's coming out of some research done by Dr. Wall. He wrote a book on intermittent fasting. So that's one of the key benefits, at least that I take away from fasting, is the increased mental focus. I fast for most of the day. I fast anywhere between 16 to 18 hours in a day. And so all during that morning and early afternoon period, I'm just laser focused on my work. And I don't have to worry about food. I don't have to worry about, I'm kind of past the point where I'm getting hungry during my fast, so I'm not worried about getting hungry. I just sit down and I work and I work and I work until it's time for me to break my fast, which, I mean, that's the best benefit for me for fasting, at least, is the focus and not having to think about food for most of the day. And it actually also promotes detoxification, and it reduces inflammation. There's a natural process in the body called autophagy that actually, it's sort of the body's natural detoxification mechanism, but it's only activated once we're fasting. Now for most people this happens around 18 hours, but leading up to that point there is a lot of reduced inflammation, a lot of detoxification benefits from fasting. And this is just because the sort of natural biochemical process of digestion is inherently taxing on the body. You eat food, and when that food breaks down, it releases something called free radicals. And free radicals cause oxidative stress. And when there's oxidative stress, you have inflammation and toxins right behind it. So the less you're eating, the shorter your eating window, the less you're introducing that oxidative stress, the less you're introducing those free radicals, and the lower your inflammation will be, and the lower your toxicity will be in your body. So that's another really, really good benefit of fasting. And if you want to get into it, 12-12 intermittent fasting is a really, really good way to get started. And as I mentioned before, it also makes it easier to lose and manage weight. So you could be at a perfectly good weight. You know, you could be at a healthy weight, a good BMI, a good muscle mass index, but you know, maybe you just want to maintain where you're at. And fasting is a really good way to do that. It's super hard to gain weight, actually, if you're intermittent fasting. So if you want to just stay where you're at, you could start a 12-12 fasting routine. Or if you wanted to lose weight, fasting is one of the best ways to shed excess fat off the body. As I mentioned before, you enter ketosis after a little bit. After, you know, 10-12 hours of fasting, you enter ketosis, and ketones come from body fat. So if you're burning ketones, you're burning body fat. So it's a really good way to lose that weight, and you're also kind of naturally reducing your calories. You're introducing caloric restriction, which we know is definitely key to losing weight. You've got to drop your calories if you want to lose weight. So fasting is a really easy, really good way to do that. And as I've mentioned numerous times in this video, 12-12 intermittent fasting is a great introduction into intermittent fasting protocols, and even prolonged fasting if that's something that you wanted to pursue in the future. 12-12 fasting is something that a lot of people do without even knowing it. It's really easy to get started. It's something that an absolute beginner who's never fasted before can easily do today. So if you are interested in that kind of fasting, go back over this video, see how you can kind of work that into your schedule if you want to start losing weight, or if you want to just start feeling better, have more energy, more focus. 12-12 fasting is a really, really good way to start doing that. So, all right guys, so that was my guide to 12-12 intermittent fasting. We talked about why you would want to do 12-12 fasting in the first place. Why are you watching this video? Why are you getting into fasting? Is it about weight loss? Is it about having higher energy, feeling better cognitively? All those things you can experience with intermittent fasting. So, why are you getting into fasting in the first place? We talked a little bit about that. We talked about what 12-12 intermittent fasting is and how to do it. A lot of you might actually be doing 12-12 fasting without even knowing about it. It's a really simple, really easy protocol to introduce into your daily routine. It's super good for beginners if you're just getting into intermittent fasting. If you've never done fasting before, it's a really good way to get started. And lastly, we talked about some of the more specific benefits to intermittent fasting. What can you expect cognitively from fasting? What can you expect as far as weight loss is concerned? And what about the detoxification and the reduced inflammation and some of the biochemical processes of detoxification and inflammation? So guys, if you're into that type of content, if you're into fasting and general health, having higher energy and maybe biohacking too, I talk about all that type of stuff on this channel. So make sure you click down below and subscribe and turn on notifications so that you can get notified every time I put out a new video. And lastly, make sure you go check out my complete intermittent fasting guide. I'm going to link it either in one of these corners or down below. And there it's more of a long form video where I talk about all different kinds of intermittent fasting. 12-12 fasting is of course there, 16-8 fasting, which I love, 18-6 fasting, which is kind of more advanced, all different kinds of fasting. It's really a big world. So there's a long video there where you can really dive deep into the different types of intermittent fasting and see which one is best for you. So make sure you go and check out that video. All right guys, that's it for this one, and I will see you in the next video.